What's the most ridiculous thing you've spent profits on?
Tesla Model X Plaid. And I realized it's not crypto, it's Bitcoin, right? It's just Bitcoin. And there's sound properties of Bitcoin that make it what it is. I think there's going to be a big shift. Corporations and nation states buying, right? They're not just going to sell in any sort of like 20-30% downfall. They're just going to keep buying. I've figured out that long term, this is the asset that's going to be the future of finance. Maybe not on the last day, but sometime this year, I think we'll hit around 175 to 180,000. Obviously, liquidity for me is the biggest thing, right? So liquidity burns out, that's when bear markets happen.
All right. Awesome. Let's get it started. I'm super excited for this. I have the infamous Ratchy with me today. Not Rachel, but Ratchy. Really excited to chat with you, first of all. And thanks again for jumping on. This is the second episode of the Bitcoin Underground, and I'm really blessed to have you with me. Just to start, if you could give everyone a kind of intro, your name, maybe you drop your X handle, kind of where you're located, and then we'll jump into some of the fun questions.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm pretty new to YouTube here. Been on X for a while. My handle is obviously Bitcoin Ratchy. Everyone thought I was a girl for a very long time, but here I am in the flesh, not a woman. But yeah, just going along the journey. Been kind of in and out of the crypto space for all the way since 2017. So yeah, I live in the Midwest.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know how there's a lot of YouTubers that have they wear the masks, they do the face reveal. You could have just kept playing along for a while.
Got in a wig with some long hair. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, again, thanks for joining me. And I kind of hate this question because everyone asks it and it's so stupid and kind of boring, but I think it sets the stage. So, tell me a little bit about how you first heard of Bitcoin. Like, what was the first time you ever encountered cryptocurrency? I don't even want to call it cryptocurrency. I'll just call it Bitcoin. And when did you first buy it after learning about it?
Yeah, so it was back in 2016. I'd gone over to one of my new friends' house. We just met through our wives were friends. I met him. We were hanging out by his pool in his apartment. And he starts talking to me about this thing called crypto and Bitcoin. And this guy was all in. He's been stacking Ethereum for years. He put 90% of his paychecks into it. He just kind of orange pilled me that day. Literally telling me, here's why you buy ETH, here's why you buy Bitcoin, and how there's nothing better than it. And I was very skeptical, right? And thinking, what is this crypto nonsense? I mean, that's kind of how most people start, right? Mm-hmm. And it just kind of snowballed from there. Obviously the 2017 bull run happened and I had bought a little bit after it told me, just, a couple $100, $1,000, but nothing crazy. And it went up. I was like, oh, wow, this is cool. And then of course, bear market happened, got bored like most people probably did back then, because I hadn't really looked into, well, what is this Bitcoin thing? Why is it going up? It's just thought it was a pump and dump type of thing, like some stocks, you know what I mean? And so from there, kind of lost interest for a few years. 2020 is when I really just started getting back into it, learning about it, but I kind of went the wrong avenue, right? So originally I started in Ethereum, altcoins, and then NFTs, right? So this is kind of where my journey you can see the foreshadowing, how it's going to lead to Bitcoin in the end, because all these things are not as good, obviously. So stuck it out, kept buying a bunch of Ethereum, converted those to NFTs, was in a bunch of NFT communities. And at the end of the day, finally, when the bear market happened and I started to lose it all, I'm just like, okay, what gives here? I mean, I thought crypto was the place to be. And I realized it's not crypto, it's Bitcoin. Right? It's just Bitcoin. And there's sound properties of Bitcoin that make it what it is that none of the other cryptos or NFTs can ever be. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of my journey. And then, since then, that's kind of where I'm just I need to start heavily getting into this asset.
Yeah. And I think you nailed it. I mean, it's so interesting. That's the first time I've heard that, when you said you were talking to your friend at the pool, that he actually pitched Ethereum first and not Bitcoin.
Yeah, and he's actually a big founder in a big crypto company now too. So yeah, I mean not big, but it's getting there. It will.
You still talk to him or no?
I literally just talked to him last week because he was pitching me what his new company is doing.
Okay.
They're launching in a month. We can get into that some other time, but it's interesting. He stuck it out and it worked out for him. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. I love hearing stuff like that. And it's rare to see people make it through that many cycles and ups and downs. One of the things you mentioned was, I bought some and it went up. And I was like, cool. And that's kind of how everyone feels. When it's going up, you feel good. You're like, cool, this is a cool thing to own. I want to be in this. But it really gets tested when the bear market does inevitably hit and you're sitting through 2 years of constant drawdowns. And that's when it's really, your thesis gets tested. You're like, why am I really owning this? Why am I holding this? So yeah, that's a really interesting perspective. I've never heard that before. I luckily never had anybody pitch me Ethereum first, although I have nothing against it. And we'll get into some of the NFT stuff as well. But in terms of just, macro and investing wise, because everyone has their own views on kind of the Bitcoin cycle, right? People either go by the halving or they go by, whatever metric they like in terms of a year and a half, 2 years of a bull market, and then obviously 2 years, 3 years of a bear market. How do you approach the cycle? Are there any sort of macro signals that you like or metrics that you care about or look at?
So up until like this previous cycle, I think it was pretty clear. I mean, it's easy to say in hindsight, but it's pretty clear like there was something going on with the halvings that was causing the 4-year cycle. Mm-hmm. I think with the ETFs that launched early 2024 and then all this stablecoin legislation happening now, I think there's going to be a big shift. I mean, I think corporations and nation states buying, right, they're not just going to sell in any sort of like 20-30% downfall. They're just going to keep buying. So I think like there's always going to be sellers, right, at every price level. But I think at this point, we're going to see a steady climb instead of like this. It's going to just like, like a little bit, and it's just going to slowly go up. And I think it's going to be with the money supply. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. My favorite like chart to look at is that M2 money supply, right? Literally, Bitcoin's like lagging it, but following it. So it all goes back to the true principles of Bitcoin's scarcity, right? If you have something that's denominated against an asset that's continuing to be inflated, continuing to grow in supply, that value of the asset is going to go up. So I think that's what we're going to keep seeing here with Bitcoin in the long term.
Yeah, and you made a great point. I mean, a lot of people are scarred from the last cycle, right? Where we kind of topped out at 60K. Everyone was positive we were going to 100. People have PTSD over that sort of last cycle shift. And, you mentioned something that I think is really important because I do think the game has changed in a sense. You brought up sovereigns, right? You brought up governments and ETFs. It seems like now there's a constant bid, kind of like for the S&P 500, right? For stocks, people are setting away their 401ks that has a constant basically bid on SPY, for example, or whatever the index fund is. And you kind of have this slow, steady melt up. I don't think we're there completely yet, right? Obviously, the volatility is still there, but the game has definitely changed. And I think one thing that's weird for I don't want to call them normies, but basically people that are not in Bitcoin is like, I talk to normal people all the time and I usually don't bring it up because I don't want to really get into it and spend hours explaining it to somebody. But the common theme for me is people don't understand it at a kind of basic level where they think, oh, it's at 100,000. I don't have 100,000. I can't buy a Bitcoin. Right. And that's why you see retail generally go to, they go on Coinbase and they see Pepe coin is 2 cents. And they're like, okay, let me buy that. I can afford it. They miss the whole, like it's divisible by whatever amount of places. And it's such a, there's an education gap, I think, in terms of new people coming into the space. And that's something that's relatively easy to fix, but just hasn't been like that yet. I mean, what's your experience talking to, or do you just avoid it at all costs, talking to people outside of Bitcoin?
I definitely do because I want the whole world to adopt it, right? So I'm literally trying to orange pill everyone at work. I'm trying to orange pill my friends, my family. I mean, I think that's the biggest misconception, right? Is that you have to buy a full coin. They don't have the. But here's what I do. When I try to explain it to them as you have $1 and you have 100 cents in $1, right? It's the same thing as a Satoshi to a Bitcoin. You don't have to buy a full Bitcoin. You can just buy 10 cents or 5 cents worth, right? Like whatever you can afford. And eventually that's going to snowball in purchasing power. So
yeah, I love that. That's a great analogy. All right, let's do something fun. We'll switch it up a little bit. This doesn't have to be Bitcoin related, and you don't have to share this. Like I could cut it if you want, but what's your most, I have a ton of these. I'll just preface it with that. What's your most embarrassing sort of trade or investment? Like, for example, for me, last cycle, I had such a terrible degenerate bag of like meme coins and alts that all basically went negative 98% down. So
yeah,
what was your like one, I don't know, I guess big regret or embarrassing trade?
I got into this big community called Suka. It was like this dragon meme coin, right? I was like in the Telegram community. I was in the Discords every day, and I was just buying it up. I think at one point I had like around 6 figures worth of Suka, and like thankfully like I had sold along the way, but then eventually it went down, right? I actually don't know where it's at. It might have come back now, but just getting into these meme coins and just like praying for this generational wealth, not gonna happen, right? It's just like another random coin that comes out. It doesn't have the fundamentals of the scarcity that I'm really looking for in an asset that I want to be in now. So it's just a different mentality, right? You get to a point where you're like, okay, do I just keep chasing these big gains, or do I just go slow and steady and let the gains come to me? Right. So,
Yeah, no, I love that outlook. And you'll have to send me that after the podcast so I can put the chart up.
yeah. I'll need to figure that out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know you mentioned in the beginning that a lot of your early time was spent sort of in the NFT space. So I don't know how far you want to go into that, but if you had to choose one now, right? Say somebody who's new, or maybe they already have a bunch of Bitcoin and they're like happy with their holdings, and they were like, I want to get some digital art. I want to keep it for the long term. What should, it's a lot of it's really expensive, right? Especially the OG stuff like the punks, they're super expensive. There's no getting into that unless you have six figures. What would your recommendation be? I know you kind of shook your head. Would your recommendation be just stay away from it? Or, what would you choose if you had to recommend something?
What I'll say is don't go for the smaller ones. You're going to lose on 99% of them. It's going to be like, right? If you want to get some NFTs, I remember when I was getting up, Pudgy Penguins was scaling up. They're probably one of the not cheap, but cheaper ones. Otherwise, I would just stick to Bored Ape Yacht Club or CryptoPunks. If you're priced out, don't even think about it, right? And even those, I don't know where they've been the last year and a half, because I've been kind of out of the NFT space in the last 2 years. That's kind of what the top of the market was at the time. So it still hold the same value, but I would stay away from anything other than that.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. And I think for a lot of people, it might be a little too advanced. I don't know if that's the proper way to say it, but because you also have to look at the price of the NFT you bought in terms of a ratio to ETH, right? So it's not just as simple as number go up. It's also where's ETH going? Yeah.
Your gains and taxes and stuff get very complicated really fast when you start all that. So
yeah, let's not even talk about taxes. So we'll just imagine we're paying them. They don't come after us. So let me ask you this in terms of just, I guess, strategy and sort of tactics. Are you mostly at this point just holding, or do you play around with other assets? Do you have like a 5% bag where you just kind of do whatever for fun, or are you all Bitcoin and relaxing?
No, so majority is probably Bitcoin. I'd say 75 to 80%. I think I've got 20% in Metaplanet right now. And that's also like very Bitcoin denominated. It's not altcoin denominated or anything else. So that's kind of my like moon bag, as you can call it right now. But it's still very much denominated in Bitcoin. So I'm okay with it, because as long as Bitcoin goes up over the next 20 years, they also will, as long as they don't have major leadership changes or anything like that. But see what I'm saying? Leadership changes. That's a third-party counter risk. You never know. Lyman and Dylan are gone. Metaplanet's going to tank, right? So Bitcoin, there's no CEO, there's nobody. You just hold the assets.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And people, well, maybe they think about it, but they don't really want to think about it. It's the same thing like Berkshire with Warren Buffett, right? I know he has an exit plan, and there's other guys in there, and nothing's really going to change. But MicroStrategy is a super popular play right now, obviously. You have the MicroStrategy yield guys that are, completely obsessed with MSTY. And then you have Metaplanet, right? People don't think about, what if Saylor leaves, right? What happens? So
I've said it doesn't matter if Saylor leaves, the company is going to keep going with the same strategy. But if you lose Saylor, that stock's going to take a 30% dip the next day. And then
you're lucky.
Then it might come back. If they settle people down and it's not just say we're going to keep going, but you never know, right? It might be more than that. I don't know.
Yeah, it would definitely be a shock. It's the same thing like Tesla and Elon Musk, right? They kind of go hand in hand. Yeah, that's a great point. Well, let me ask you this one, because this one is really fun, and because I think a lot of people kind of forget, or maybe it doesn't seem like it happens because Bitcoin's always sort of crazy, but 20% of all of Bitcoin gains happen in 90% of all the Bitcoin gains in a year happen in about 20 days out of the year, right? Most of the time it's super boring, or it's just whatever, especially the weekends nowadays when there's no US trading. It's super low volatility. How do you stay convicted when things get really boring?
Well, I have a DCA going every hour, and so now I just watch that, and it makes it fun. Oh, I'm collecting this many sats every day, right? Something to keep me occupied while the price goes, stagnant or whatever. And now that I've started that DCA schedule, I like when it goes down, right? In the past, I would be like, okay, can I pull funds now to smash buy? But now I'm just always buying, right? So no matter what, I'm interested because I've figured out that long term, this is the asset that's going to be the future of finance. It's going to be the future of the world. So as long as you have your conviction, there's no reason to get bored. Just let it go slow.
Yeah, I love that. That's the first time I've heard that. I've heard of people DCA buying sort of every day, but never every hour. That is next level. So
yeah, and I think that on X, and I'm like, how does that work with the fees? And then I found River, and like, there's 0 fees after the first week, and so I was like, all right, try this. And I figure if I don't do it, and I'm just going to keep holding cash longer, and I'm going to end up paying fees when I buy anyways. So might as well just slowly do this, right? And just see how it works out. And so far, it's working great.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I mean, there's literally 0 point to having cash sitting in your account.
It's there. It actually gets 3.8%. So kind of nice. Just a little extra, like, wow, before it gets fully vested.
Got it. That's cool. So I'll ask you one last like kind of trading macro one, and then we'll go into kind of more fun stuff. What's one kind of trading idea or edge you wish more people paid attention to? I know you mentioned the global M2 chart. Not to shout myself out, but I have a custom one. It's free on TradingView. So yeah, go check that one out. But outside of that, because I know that's been on fire this year just because the correlation has been so high. What else do you kind of look at for confirmation? A lot of people love the power law, right? Some people love the rainbow chart. Like, what is your go-to?
I don't really have one. For a long time, I looked at Plan B, stock to flow. I've looked at the power law, but at the end of the day, honestly, I don't even care. As long as the blocks keep running and Bitcoin is getting globally adopted by new nations and companies, I'm not really caring too much about what's happening. Obviously, liquidity for me is the biggest thing, right? So liquidity burns out, that's when bear markets happen. So literally, I think it's just M2 money supply and liquidity. I think that drives the entire market. The halving, of course, is going to have a lot to do with it. That's going to always have some sort of supply shock, but you need to have that M2 and liquidity for Bitcoin or any asset to run up.
Yeah, you completely nailed it. I wish more people, I would put that on repeat for people because liquidity is what drives the cycle. The halving, it helps, but it doesn't really have that much of an effect. And yeah, at this point, it literally is what you said. It's literally global liquidity until that decorrelates and proves everybody wrong, which at some point it might, but it hasn't yet. So that's my most important metric as well. So I'm glad you called that out. Yeah, that's one that seems really popular on like X, where we're in our own Bitcoin echo chamber. But if you said that to any normal person on the street, they'd be like, "Liquid what? What are you talking about?" So yeah, and it's wild because it aligns perfectly with the debt refinancing cycle, right? The government has to roll over their debt. Bitcoin released coincidentally right after the 2008 financial crisis, right, as kind of a response, to the bailouts and everything. So the halving cycle perfectly aligns, basically, not perfectly, but pretty much with the refinancing cycle. It's a beautiful, like, mathematical conglomerate. I don't know how else to say it, but let me ask you, go ahead.
How does he plan that, man? He was a genius there. I mean, put it in the right time. Like, Bitcoin was needed in the world. Obviously, it took a long time to get adopted, but he recognized it.
Yeah, so. Very forward looking, could almost like see into the future, you could argue. So still amazing to this day. Do your real life friends know you're into this, or are you kind of low key about it?
No, they know. They very much know. And I'm sure, behind the scenes, they're probably like, that guy's going to lose all of his money. But little do they know what's coming here in the world. So
yeah, that's the unfortunate thing is most people are going to have to find out the hard way. That's how, actual change might happen, but we'll see. So what's you don't have to answer this. I don't want to put you on the spot.
Is your price prediction question?
No, we'll get to that one. But what's the most ridiculous thing you've spent profits on?
A Tesla Model X Plaid.
Oh, okay.
So not a cheap car by any means, but with a family, like, we love our wing doors. It's super easy to get, an infant in and out of the car. And I love the speed. It's fun. So yeah, it was a splurge purchase, but also family car. It wasn't just for me. So my wife.
Love that. Yeah, I love that. People sleep on Teslas just because, they're quiet, but those things can rip most cars on the road in terms of 0 to 60. It's kind of insane. Yeah. I love them. It's funny you answered that because that was the exact thing I did. I bought a car that I've always wanted. So
Oh, awesome. Which car?
I bought an E53, and that's basically the only thing I've done with my profits. Everything else I
Oh,
put back in.
same.
So yeah, it's weird. Men are always like, yeah, we just need a car, and it was kind of stupid looking back at it. I'm like, yeah, I could have whatever. It's a splurge.
As much as it was a splurge, I do regret it sometimes. I did it when Bitcoin was at 30K and my down payment was like 62K. So I missed out on 2 Bitcoin. So it kind of sucks in that way when you look at it, like you buy a depreciating asset versus an appreciating asset. So learned it. I don't think I'm doing that again anytime soon. I think I'm done. I'm just gonna ride this out as long as I can.
Yeah. I mean, don't think about it like that. You're actually using it. You're using it for your family, right? It's giving you utility in your life, so it's worth it. Trust me. I'm sure there's a lot worse stuff we could spend our profits on. So that's probably one of the least bad ones. Let's do lightning round if you're ready. We'll shotgun these questions. You already said it. You kind of predicted that I would ask this. So end of 2025, December 30th or 31st, whatever the hell the last day is this year. What is Bitcoin price at?
Maybe not on the last day, but sometime this year, I think we'll hit around 175 to 180,000.
Okay. All right. I like it. Yeah.
It's like, why so bearish, right? But I don't want to be a moon boy either. Like, I think everything takes a little bit of time. And if we rip to 250, then I think we're going to have a bigger drawdown, right? So I'd rather we go slow and steady.
Yeah.
So,
No, I like that. That's a measured take. You hear pretty much everyone saying something 200 plus, right? And that's exactly what Bitcoin will do, is what everyone least expects. So yeah, I like that. That's a measured take. So we'll pull the receipts on that at the end of the year.
love it.
What's your favorite X account to follow right now?
Ooh, favorite X account. Let me think for a second.
It's a weird question. Not everybody has like a favorite one, but
Okay, so I guess one person I really like looking at on X is Matthew Hyland. I know he's more of a technical analysis guy, but every time I kind of see his charts, it just kind of gives me some butterflies in my stomach. Ooh, we're about to bounce off this and bounce off that. That's what keeps me entertained during like the boring times, is like what's happening on the charts.
Yep. No, he's definitely like a Picasso when it comes to beautiful charts, giving us all some hope. Cool. Next question? What is one altcoin you'd actually hold for this cycle? And it could be none.
Oh, an altcoin. Yeah.
Or meme coin, whatever.
No, I don't think I'm holding any. I have literally zero into any altcoins. So sorry, probably have 50 or $60 worth of ETH left from when I sold it all. Just to leave some there, but yeah, nothing else. No.
I like it. Full Bitcoin. Let's go. Full steam ahead. Yeah, Ratchy, it's been a pleasure, mate. Seriously, thank you so much. Cutting it up with me, spending some time. I always, your takes are so refreshing, and I love the end of the year Bitcoin price prediction. Finally, someone who's not just towing we're going to 500,000 like everyone else. So if you put something like smaller, right, like a lower price target, and it goes over, isn't that better at the end? Yeah.
Exceed your expectations, and then you're all good.
100%. So if you want to, shout out your stuff. I know you just launched a YouTube channel. So congrats on that. If you want to just say your X handle, I'll put it up on the screen, and maybe your YouTube or whatever else you want to shout out, and then we'll kind of close it out from there.
Yeah, I think at Bitcoin Ratchy for my X, and then Bitcoin Ratchy on YouTube as well. I guess I'm just looking forward to what the rest of this year brings, and I'd love to kind of chat it up with you again. I got a lot of experience in real estate as well, and kind of transitioning from real estate over to Bitcoin. So maybe we'll hook it up again and kind of talk more.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much, Ratchy. Really appreciate your time. I'm definitely going to see you again, because we're definitely going to I will have to pick your brain about real estate, given what's going on where I am in Miami. So I'm going to need some advice from you for sure. And yeah, until next time.
Cool. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.